So, if your privacy-related information was only known to intermediaries for a CBDC system, right? Specifically a US CBDC system, does that really change anything, at least relative to the traditional financial system itself, right? In terms of identity privacy, right? Just looking at that for now, right? And it seems like it probably won't, at least according to a recent paper from the Office of Science and Technology of the White House, right? So to define identity privacy from that paper itself, so identity privacy concerns the extent to which individuals can keep various attributes related to their identity confidential from different parties, right? And this could be the Fed in the case of the United States, the general, I guess, central bank, if you want to apply it to other countries as well, or intermediaries, that sort of thing, right? And so to kind of look at, the case in general for this information being known only to intermediaries, right? That paper itself says it'd basically be very similar to current AML or CFT regulatory frameworks, right? Basically anti-money laundering and counter-financing terrorism, right? Those kind of regulations already in place, the compliance and all that sort of stuff doesn't really change all too much. To pull a direct quote from this, or from this paper about this, so it may limit the amount of new risk introduced. It would also implicitly endorse an imperfect status quo, right? And so would it really change anything with respect to a new system, right? So one kind of major, I say kind of consequence, because negative in this respect, was it would give these intermediaries, whatever they'd happen to be, if they'd be somewhat kind of analogous to what the traditional financial system is now, and what I mean by that is whatever service is provided by said intermediary now in the traditional financial system, would basically the same service provided in the CBDC system, they'd just take that over. Like, is it basically just expanding their powers, or is it basically going to be a completely kind of parallel system, new businesses, new entities, whatever, right? And all this is kind of up in the air, it seems, right? At least from the paper itself. And so basically the power and control given to these intermediaries would basically just more or less double. Or I don't know if, I guess it kind of depends on how we're measuring it to begin with. If you want to think about it, if it's in terms of like the amount of capital or whatever that they're kind of working with in that respect, or if it's kind of, more or less kind of, they're just doing it for two completely separate systems. So in that case, it does kind of double. But one thing to keep in mind, and it's very important to note, is how exactly are we going to define this identity-related information? Because that's kind of in flux, right? Like, they don't define that specifically in the paper. They basically just talk about, payment addresses explicitly, but that's pretty much it. And so obviously I'll put a link to the paper in the description, like I always do, so you guys can read it too. It's like 58 pages or so. It's not too bad. Basically just going on various US CBDC design choices and possibilities and that sort of thing, right? And so the reason I bring that up is, for this new CBDC system, would it be giving those intermediaries more or less information? Like, do they already have this information with what we do now in the traditional financial system? Because in that case, does it really make much of a difference in that respect? Or, are we giving them new information that they wouldn't otherwise have? Right, so keeping that in mind, and then what kind of backstops, in a way, or we'll say cybersecurity or legal or technological protections are going to be in place to basically hedge that risk out, right? Keeping all that in mind. So basically, overall, this would probably be better for the privacy of individuals if the intermediaries collected the data and not the central bank, which is something we talked about in a previous video, which will be at a card on the end of this video itself. And so But one final thing to note, especially with this, is not all intermediaries are the same, right? When we're saying intermediaries, it's basically just entities, whether that be banks, payment service providers, just to give examples, right? Basically any entity coming in here and providing a service that allows the system to function, right? More efficiently than, say, if it was completely centralized and controlled solely by the Federal Reserve in the case of a CBDC system, right? So keeping that in mind. So not all intermediaries are the same. So which types of intermediaries are going to be allowed to collect which data, right? Something that needs to be discussed and kept in mind, right? For the privacy of the system itself and the individuals it would entail, right? So that being said, if you guys think I missed anything in the case for identity privacy information where it's known to the intermediaries only, please feel free to put it in the comments. The whole point of these videos is to kind of provoke discussion and think through every little aspect, at least that I can think of, with respect to central bank digital currencies and just kind of putting it out there. So anyways, I will put up as a card the same idea for the video, but where it's known to the central bank itself. So in the American case, the Federal Reserve, and that will be up in the top right corner, and I hope to see you guys there.